안녕하세요, I'm Outsider, welcome to my channel. I'm a French illustrator. I've been living and working here in Korea for about 6 years now, on and off. And I love the country. And because I love the country, I would like to bring a different perspective on what's going on right now and the changes Korea is facing. The first thing I'm going to talk about in this channel is this event that took place in Hongdae on the 21st March 2021. Stop Racism Equality Act Now, with the very recognizable Black Lives Matter fist as a logo. For those who don't know what Black Lives Matter is, I'm going to quickly explain the claims and the ideology of this movement, because I think it's important to build up ideas from a solid base. Black Lives Matter is a political movement that started in 2012, and is based on the idea that African American people are more likely to get arrested by the police or killed during the arrest. The claim is 5 times more compared to white people. It basically says that blacks are victims and that the US is deeply racist with white supremacy ruling the country, which certainly has been true back in the 50s, 60s, or even before that. And Black Lives Matter wants to kind of resurrect the Black Panther movement that took place in the 60s. Now, looking at the data from 2018, convicted criminals by the Bureau of Justice, it seems black people tend to commit more violent assaults than any other population in the US, although they only make 13% of the population, while white people account for 61% of the population according to Wikipedia. A quick calculation tells us that that year, 39% of all convicted murderers were black, which means that year, black people were roughly 6 times more likely to be sentenced for a violent crime compared to white people, and 8 times more likely to commit a murder. The FBI made it very difficult to really understand what's going on when you look at the data on their website, because they're mixing up race and ethnicity, so it's very difficult to actually get a grasp on the real numbers here. But a survey showed that black people were involved in 80% of all interracial crimes, meaning that they were more likely to attack white people rather than the opposite. So looking at these data, we clearly understand why black people are more likely to get arrested or shot during an arrest. So all of this just shows that Black Lives Matter is just an intellectual fraud. I think the disparities between races, the health situation, the wealth, all of this should be discussed from an objective viewpoint. But Black Lives Matter is more of an historical religion that only brings racial tensions and chaos. And that is precisely the purpose of these racial movements emerging in Korea. So back to the Hongdae event. I've painfully been through the whole event on YouTube, and here's a quick summary. They talked about the working conditions of the migrant workers. They talked about undocumented migrants fleeing their countries, refugees. They talked about women as well. For those who might be confused, undocumented migrant means illegal migrant. The choice of word matters because it implies that these undocumented migrants are just migrants whose situation haven't been regularized yet by the government. So what? No borders, no laws? What does it imply? If you just regularize whoever comes here illegally and work illegally, that doesn't make any sense. The main focus of this event is people from Southeast Asia. They talk about the poor conditions of some workers who get mistreated by their employers, allegedly because they are racists. Now, let me tell you a bit more about me. I came here with a working holiday visa. I've been working in a restaurant. I've been working in a bunch of restaurants, as a matter of fact. And I had to switch visa at some point, and I became a student. When I was a student, I worked in a burger restaurant in Itaewon, and I've been working there for 2 months. But since my visa, I wasn't sure if I was allowed to be working in a restaurant with that kind of visa, and my employer didn't seem to care at the time. Now, after the first month, my employer decided to delay my payment, and the second month, my employer just kicked me out without paying me. Was it racist? No, it wasn't racist. It was simply someone trying to make money out of someone else just because he could, just because the law was on his side. And I knew that at some point I would have to rely on that person's honesty, which was a mistake, obviously. I've been in such situation many times in my life, in New Zealand, in Australia, in France as well. And every time when I was working in this kind of low paid jobs, undeclared jobs, mostly in restaurants, I had to struggle to get my money. I had to fight to actually get paid. This is what happens everywhere in the world, and it's not about race. It's just about money and power. Workers from Southeast Asia shouldn't be mistreated. Of course, that's not what I'm saying. But as long as there's people willing to come here and work illegally or legally in poor working conditions, this pattern will just repeat itself. And it certainly won't improve with the free trade agreement with the Philippines and the cheap labor highway it will create. In fact, it's going to worsen. And there are many examples of this everywhere in the world. For example, in France, my country, cheap workers from Poland are working in dangerous conditions for very low wages. Because there is a free trade agreement between France and Poland through Europe, and because they don't even need a visa. If someone is not happy about these working conditions, there will be 100 other foreigners willing to do the job, so the situation is never going to improve. Now it's the same in Germany with Romanian workers, same in Spain with African workers, same in the US with South American workers, same in Dubai with Indian workers, etc., etc. So you see that the pattern just repeats itself. Just look up on YouTube Korea Factory and you will see dozens of Southeast Asian people explaining how to get a job in Korea, how to come to Korea, and the working conditions, and guess what? They love it. They love this country, and there's many people who want to come. Even me looking at some of these videos, I found it quite appealing compared to the backpackers in Australia and New Zealand. Now, why do these people talk about migrants, illegal and legal alike? These issues are not related. In fact, legally, these are different issues and it should be addressed separately. So what is the pattern here? What is the main idea? Of course, the main idea is race. They put everything in the same basket. Refugees, migrants, workers, because of the race. Because what matters for the people in charge of this campaign is to promote the idea that Korea is a racist country and that Korean people are racists and bigots. It is called identity politics. It is a powerful tool used by many Western governments, France and the US included, to divide the population on their race, on their gender, on their beliefs. The problem for these people is that still Korea is a very homogeneous country, ethnically speaking. And so it's going to be difficult to promote a division between races. That's why I think this government is promoting interracial marriage in the countryside and is creating this void, this highway for Southeastern Asian workers, lowering the wages, relocating factory, bringing mass immigration, and while doing so, talking about feminism, racism, or genders, just in order to avoid a public debate about the actual destruction of the country. That happened to my country, France, which is now a third world country, and that's going to happen to Korea if things keep going that way. Now, the next time, I'm probably going to talk about identity politics, getting a bit more deeply into it and showing the connections between the West and now Korea. Thank you for watching and see you next time.